What's going on, everyone? In this video today, we're going to go over some of the differences between elite level lifters and average level lifters so you can see if you're missing out something and you can improve going forward. So as always, let's get right into the video. Alrighty, what's going on, my powerlifting people? Hope you're all having a good day. This is another user submitted topic or question going over what are some of the differences between elite level lifters and the average level lifter. So if you ever want to submit a topic or question to me, you can always comment those down below or message me directly through the information down in the description below. And if you're new here to this channel and you don't know who I am, my name is Aaron Kamesi. I'm a powerlifting coach, athlete, referee, and meet director. So I make videos here on this channel to help out those groups of people. So a couple things to go over before we dive into this topic is that one, there's going to be an overall idea of what an elite level lifter is, an overall idea of what an average level lifter is, but there's going to be some variations of what people think. Okay, this person's elite, or this person's not elite, or this person's average or above average. So some of that is going to be subjective. In addition, there will always be outliers here and there for each category. There may be some elite level lifters that are elite in their very first powerlifting meet versus some elite level lifters that maybe took several years and many meets to get that elite level status. But in general, we're going to try and cover all the factors that would take care of the majority of elite level lifters, not looking at necessarily the outliers, and the majority of average level lifters, again, not looking at those little outliers. All right, and in no particular order, though it is a big factor, one of the factors that differentiates the elite level lifters and the average level lifters is going to be genetics. So you have people that are on both extremes of this. You have people that say, oh, it's all genetics, like everything else doesn't matter. If you're just born with good genetics, you're going to be the top. If otherwise, then you're going to suck. And you have people on the other side like, oh, genetics don't matter at all. If you just work hard, then you're going to be able to be the best. And if you're not the best, then it must be that you're not working hard. And if you missed out on it, you can check out the video I did last week going over genetics and going over different things that are genetically passed on and things that maybe you learn as a kid through parenting versus things that you can control. So you can go check out that video, put the card for the above and down in the description below, which dives deeper into this topic and see what kind of factor genetics play. But it is a factor, so there is something at play there. So if you take two lifters and you try and make everything equal as far as their training that they're doing, the nutrition that they're following, the amount of sleep that they have, the amount of stress level they have in life outside of their training, and they both have the same amount of training time and they both have the same number of competition underneath their belt, but one is very extreme as far as being an elite level lifter, being top in the world, and the other person just middle of the pack, then you can use genetics to explain some or all of that difference. So whether you like it or not, genetics does play a role and it's something that you can't control, so that is just going to be a factor in life and in these various sports, including powerlifting. All right, the next difference that's going to be there is going to be better technique. So in general, when you're comparing these elite level lifters and then these beginner or average level lifters, is that the elite level lifters are going to have better technique across the board than the average level lifters. And there's a number of different reasons for it, as maybe they have more training time, so they've been under the bar more, honing in their technique. That may have also given more time to test out different things, high bar versus low bar, a narrow stance versus a wide stance, figuring out their toe angle, all that kind of stuff, and maybe more of a willingness to put the importance on technique, going and researching what kind of technique they need to have, what are the rules of the sport, maybe getting a coach to hone in their technique. So those are reasons that would create this difference in the elite level lifters in general having better technique than the average level lifters. So if you think you are an average level lifter and you're trying to shift yourself up that spectrum a little bit, then maybe you want to go and take a look at your technique and see whether there's any adjustments that you can make to make that setup that you have more efficient, or maybe look into changing yourself, again, going from high bar to low bar, maybe going from conventional sumo, maybe widening your bench grip out over time. All right, so another difference between the groups is that in general, the elite level lifters are going to have more competition experience than the average level lifters, as this is one of the factors that gaining experience can help you figure out things as far as learning from your mistakes, as far as attempt selection, or maybe technique that doesn't work out in competition, or even just buying in more into what you're doing, your hobby, your sport, whatever like that, is that the more competitions you do and you have fun and you hit PRs and everything like that, you get more motivated. Then maybe you want to go to a higher level competition, and so you put more time and effort into the hobby that you're doing and all aspects of it to go to that next level. And so doing more competitions helps build that momentum to put more time and effort into all these factors, as well as gain that actual experience. Again, figuring out how your technique will work in a competition, figuring out attempt selection, figuring out how to be stressed being in a competition competition setting with the audience watching you and being on a live stream and all that kind of stuff. So again, if you're an average level lifter and you're trying to, improve yourself, then you may want to look into getting more competitive experience, maybe doing 2 to 3 meets per year in those initial few years when you're starting up, so you can get a lot of meets under your belt and gain experience. And then once you've been around for 3 to 5 years, maybe then you go down to 1 to 2 meets per year. So really pick which meets you're doing, build out your schedule for the year, and really focus more on gaining strength rather than competing. But even then, you'll see some elite level lifters still competing 2 to 4 times per year, depending on what meets they want to do. So sometimes people will do USAPL nationals, which normally is in October, then come around in March and do the Arnold Source Festival, and then maybe turn around in June and do the World Championships, and then do that 3 meet cycle over and over again, as long as they can keep winning nationals and making it to Worlds. All right, and building off of that idea of the competition experience, kind of building a momentum and building more of a buy-in, is that another difference between the two groups is that the elite level lifters are going to be more consistent with their training than the average level lifters. So the elite level lifters are going to put a higher priority to their training when it comes to their whole life schedule. So maybe they have work and family, and then training is there. Maybe the average level lifter will have their work, their family, then maybe some other hobbies, like if a movie came out or a TV show, or maybe drinking with their friends at the bar, and then at the bottom maybe put training there. So sometimes maybe someone will want to be on a program that's 4 to 5 days per week, but the average level lifter maybe will miss some of those training here and there. Maybe they get 4 out of 5 sometimes, or maybe they get 3 out of 5 on certain weeks. They're going on a vacation, they're hanging out with their buddies, they weren't motivated to train that night. And so these different little factors kind of get in them, and when they have to decide between hey, should I stay up and get my training in and then have less sleep going into work next day, or should I just pass on the gym and watch a couple of TV shows and then go to bed? So they may pick the TV shows and miss out on training, where the elite level lifters kind of got there because they've been consistently doing their training week after week, month after month, year after year, which is going to get more training in as far as improving technique, volume, muscle mass, all that kind of stuff like that, which slowly helps them progress further and further and drift further and further away from the rest of the pack that isn't being consistent with their training. In a single week, it may not seem like a big difference. Oh, this person did 4 training sessions, this person did 3 training sessions, but over time, those little differences add up. It's going to, again, get more volume in, get more practice in, and have that snowball effect to a bigger change when you look years on down the line. And continue to build off these last couple of factors, another big factor is going to be that the elite level lifters tend to have a bigger focus on the other factors other than just training. So things like, sleep, nutrition, and hydration. So some people, when they come into powerlifting or maybe switch over from another sport like bodybuilding over to powerlifting, will do kind of same thing I did when I half the time switched over, is only focus on training. Okay, I'm doing my 4 times a week training. That's all I need to do for powerlifting. I don't need to be focusing on my nutrition, because that's what bodybuilders do when they get down to stage weight and they're trying to get as lean as possible. For powerlifters, you're not getting that lean. And so, okay, you may not focus on nutrition, you may not focus on sleep or hydration that much either. So those factors, again, play a part slowly over time. Having a lack of sleep for one day is not going to make a big difference. But if someone's sleeping only 4 to 5 hours per day for several years, and someone's sleeping 6 to 8 hours per day for several years, then that recovery is going to make a bigger difference over those years. And same thing for hydration. I used to be a slacker, sometimes even now still, drinking only half a gallon of water per day, which is very low, especially here in Miami where it's really hot and you're sweating. You really want to have it higher, and also can make it more difficult for things like if you want to do a water cut, then it's going to be hard to load when you're already at such a low level. And of course, nutrition is a big factor in all these sports, not just bodybuilding. So if you're trying to put on muscle mass, or you're trying to lose body fat so you can get into a certain weight class, or just for recovery, it's going to be important to get the right amount of protein in. And then of course, depending on your diet, getting in enough carbs so you have enough energy for training sessions, and then filling out the rest of whatever you need for fat. In addition, different micronutrients are important, again, salt intake can be important for someone like me in Miami, where it's very hot, sweating during a lot of training sessions. So having the proper hydration and having the proper sodium intake can be beneficial for someone even in the sport of powerlifting. So again, if you're an average level lifter, you're trying to take this to the next level and see what can you do that the elite level lifters are doing, is look into your nutrition, your sleep, and hydration, see if you're slacking off in those areas, see if you can make small improvements in those areas, and then stay consistent in all those areas over time. All right, and going off of this discussion of nutrition, another factor that differentiates the elite level lifters from average level lifters is that the elite level lifters have a tendency to have more muscle mass in the absolute sense, and also a better body composition. So you'll see all these elite level lifters and you'll see how jacked they are and how lean some of them are for their weight class. And that isn't by coincidence, is that again, in general, a bigger muscle, a bigger cross-sectional area of that muscle is going to have the potential to push more weight. So if you can put on more and more muscle, you're going to maximize still the neural adaptation, but now you can maximize the hypertrophy side and have more muscle to be able to push more weight. In addition, having a better body composition, having that lower body fat, you don't need to be as low as, again, a bodybuilder walking on stage, but having a lower body fat percentage is going to put you in a lower weight class. So you may have the same muscle mass, your lean body mass as, let's say, Russell or he, but if you have a ton of more fat and you're 2 or 3 weight classes above him, then the amount of muscle mass being equal to him and even pushing the same amount of weight as him is not going to make you as competitive in the 105 or 120 kilo class compared to Russell or he in the 83 kilo class. So part of the game for powerlifting is to get as jacked as possible, get as much muscle mass as you can, keep your body fat as low as you can so that you have as much muscle mass as possible to potentially push more weight, and as low body fat as possible to stay in as low a weight class as possible to be as competitive as possible for the amount of muscle mass that you do have. All right, and another factor that differentiates these two groups is that in general, the elite level lifters have a strong belief. They believe in themselves and what they're capable of and what they can achieve as far as their goals compared to the average level lifter. As I've mentioned before in these videos, that sometimes it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that if you think you have crappy genetics and you think you suck at a lift and you think you're never going to be good enough, then you're going to have that mentality in you and your training and everything's going to be affected by that. Again, maybe you're not going to be consistent with your training because you're like, oh man, I don't need to train. I'll just go, hang out with my buddies because I'm not going to be good anyways. And so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because now that you are slacking off in these different areas and you have this negative mentality, you are then, not training as hard and not maximizing your potential. Whereas the elite level lifters, oftentimes they tell themselves, hey, I'm going to be a national champion. I'm going to be a world champion. I'm going to break that world record. They set big goals for themselves and then they put that time and effort into doing everything they need to do to achieve that goal. So they truly believe in themselves. And even on competition day, they believe that they can go make that third attempt that they pick. And you'll see this with some lifters, for example, with Taylor Atwood, with his dad there, is his dad's there always telling him motivational things, telling him how good he is, telling him that he can go achieve that, telling him that he's ready, not telling him any kind of technique stuff, not talking about any kind of strategy, what kind of attempt selection. That's what the other coaches do, is he's just there for the mental aspect. And he's been training Taylor like that for years and years, where Taylor has that belief in himself that he can go and do whatever he sets his mind to. He can set some big goals and then put in the effort to go achieve it. So across all these different factors, a big factor involved with that is believing in yourself, setting a plan and then actually taking action and going and achieving that plan and those goals. All right, so again, if you're an average level lifter right now and you want, try and make yourself better and better, get closer and closer to that elite level status, then you're going to start believing in yourself. You got to, come up with a plan of what you want to do for, maybe the next 12 months, what meets you want to do, what improvements you need to make, and then go and set some goals as well. Okay, based on these meets and this timeline, I want to hit these numbers or I want to go to this level, and then go and actually do it. Go focus on the technique, go focus on nutrition, the hydration, the sleep, go try and put on more muscle mass, all those things. Believe that you can actually go and achieve that. And then when you look back, 12, 24 months, you'll look back and you'll see, oh man, I actually, went and, put more effort than I ever put in. And then I achieved more than I've ever done. And if you want to check out that video I did last week going all over genetics, you can click right here and watch that video next. Or if you just want to see all kinds of powerlifting tips and tricks, I have a powerlifting tips playlist right here that you can go check out and see what we want to see for your next video. Other than that, hope you guys have a good week and a good upcoming weekend. I'll see you on the next video.